Hi, I'm Ed Zigo with Clarke-Hook Real Estate. We're owners, developers, and managers of commercial and industrial property in Northern Virginia. Today I'm here with Harry Ronner, who is the CEO of the Business Bank. And Harry, how are you?
I'm fine, Ed.
Good. Harry, as you know, we build and manage facilities that are specifically targeted to small to mid-sized businesses. And as managers of those properties, we are landlords. And today I just wanted to focus on an issue that's of concern to our company as landlords. And that is the tradition of prospective tenants looking to companies such as ourselves, landlords, property managers, to finance their tenant improvements when they're looking at new locations, relocations, or expansions within an existing location. And in the past, we have done our level best to work out deals which made economic sense for both sides, us and the tenant. But with the current economic environment, as well as with different banking and financing policies, it's becoming increasingly difficult for us as landlords to be able to meet every single, not demand, but request that these tenants are coming to us with. And I'm not speaking just for me. I know that I've heard this said from other landlords that oftentimes we have to sit down and say, look, we're landlords, we're not banks. And I was wondering, and the reason why I wanted you to weigh in on this is there anything that we can do to help small businesses to achieve the goals that I just described?
Yes, certainly. There does seem to be a trend where businesses are hoarding more cash and for some reason avoiding traditional financing, such as a bank, and asking non-traditional financiers like their landlord to provide funding. Why this is, I can think of a variety of reasons, but probably the biggest one is the uncertainty of what was going to happen with fiscal policy, tax policy, obviously, and just the economy in general. So we're seeing less loan demand for traditional purposes like expanding, moving, or enhancing their space, and an increase in hoarding of cash by businesses and going to sources that they don't consider financing or may not be financing in the traditional sense that their accountants have to show it on their financial statement as a liability. It becomes part of the operating lease. The banks, most of the banks in the Northern Virginia metropolitan Washington area are sitting on a lot of cash and would love to lend it, but for whatever reason they're not walking in our door, they're walking in your door. Could be because the commercial realty industry is suggesting that landlords are making deals and willing to go the extra mile, or it could be just that they're adverse to using up what's a traditional source, thinking that may be a source of last resort. Recent legislation has increased SBA guarantees, although the SBA is not necessarily any easier than the bank, but they do shore up certain weaknesses in borrowers that allow the bank to do the lending. There's the state authorities like the 504 authorities, the business finance group, small business finance group, which are subsidized by the federal government, that provide great, cheap, long-term sources of financing for tenants for capital equipment to include improvements when they move, and a variety of other purposes that they may be coming to the landlord now. So getting the word out is difficult because I think there's such a media-created myth that the banks aren't lending today.
Well, from my perspective, even in times when I was able to create a deal that made sense, it would make sense to them, but I would be scratching my head saying, you're borrowing at a higher rate because we have got to go to our traditional lines of credit to pay for these tenant improvements, And then on top of that, we've got to assess the tenant a premium on top of that for not only because to cover our expenses plus the risk factor that's involved. So I think that if we could educate tenants that economically, financially, it does make sense. I think maybe we'll start seeing some more people walk in your doors, and I think a good place to start is with the commercial brokerage industry, and it's a quandary because they too are, I don't want to say, they're used to landlords accommodating them. And again, I am a landlord who has accommodated tenants on building them quality space, beautiful locations, and but as our lines get burdened and our ability to extend our lines become more difficult, we want to do whatever we can not to lose deals, not only not to lose deals, but to make sure that our tenants are getting exactly what they want, and that is not just gold-plating the plumbing, but a quality workplace that meets every single need that they need, requirement that they need in order to succeed.
Well, again, we're on the receiving end of a lot of the, planning businesses who seem reluctant to borrow from traditional sources, and I do believe that a lot of businesses are taking the course of least resistance today, and they perceive that to be the landlord. Certainly, for businesses that cash flow, and by and large, it seems small businesses is doing fairly well in the metropolitan Washington and Northern Virginia area. That's our experience anyway. And are fully capable of borrowing. We just got to convince them that despite the onslaught of major media's contention that banks aren't lending, that in fact they are, and in fact we see quite a few of the local banks balance sheets because we're as a member of the FDIC we have that all the banks can look at each other's numbers basically, and we know there's a lot of liquidity and ability on the parts of the banks to lend, and in fact a lot of inducement because of this liquidity that we're investing overnight at 0.25% when we could get 1,000% to 2,000% more by making a reasonable loan. So it's a challenge I'm not sure we're being terribly successful at overcoming right now.
Great. Well, I don't think we're going to tackle this in a short conversation, but what we wanted to do is do what we did, and that's at least address the issue and use this hopefully as a starting point. I know that what I will do is share your thoughts with my colleagues in the brokerage industry as well as my fellow landlords, and hopefully it will trickle down to those prospective tenants that we're all competing to get. Because in the end, the most important thing we can do is make deals that make sense for the tenant while minimizing our risk, because their success will inevitably turn out to be our success.
And it does come full circle. We're a fairly significant local financier of commercial real estate, so when we help our commercial business clients get the space they need, get the expansion, the look that they want, it not only helps them but also helps our landlords. So we're ready to show up with the checkbook and hope that, like I said, we can get more of those back into the traditional financing sources and get them off frankly, the backs of the landlords. Well, that sounds great to me, and I want to thank you, and hopefully we'll have more conversations like this. Maybe the next conversation will be, wow, we were right, it worked. Thanks a lot, Harry. So thanks, Ed.